Marginal becomes 0 and the total product reaches maximum. This is stage 2, and beyond that stage 3. So in the table also, marginal product 0 and maximum of total product 14, that occurs in stage 2, and afterwards that is stage 3. The purpose of dividing this diagram or table into 3 stages is, a rational producer always operates in stage 2. Why? Because in stage 1 he will never stop, and similarly in stage 3 he will never enter into stage 3, because in stage 3, for example, the 6th worker, if he employs the 6th worker, what is the extra contribution of the 6th worker? -2, and 7th worker -4, that is, he is spoiling the work of others. They are not adding anything to the total, so he will never employ 6th or 7th worker. So stage 3 is ruled out. And why not in stage 1 alone? In stage 1, for example, 1, 2, 3, third workers, what is the contribution of third worker? 4 units. And 4th worker, again 2. So he will experiment with the 4th worker and he will try the 5th worker also, that is 0. And after 5th worker he will not employ. So a rational producer will never stop in stage 1 because he is missing an opportunity. He has to see that any extra is added by the extra worker. So he will continue to experiment and he will operate in stage 2, because in stage 2 the average product is increasing, and average product is increasing in stage 2. So the right side boundary for stage 1 is, in the stage 1 average product is increasing, and in the right side boundary for stage 2 is 0 product and marginal product and maximum total product. He never enters into stage 3 and he will never stop in stage 1, and he will always operate in stage 2. This is about the production function with one variable input. Now there is one more point, that is in stage 2 where exactly he operates. That also we can decide, provided we are given additional pieces of information like price of input and price of output. If you know the input price and output price, you can decide what is the optimum quantity of a variable input usage. With this data, we can only say that he will never operate in stage 1, he will never enter into stage 3, and he will never stop in stage 1, and he will operate in stage 2. Where exactly in stage 2 he operates, or what is the optimum quantity of a variable input usage? If you want to decide that, we need 3 pieces of information. That is price of input, price of output, and marginal productivities of labor. If you are given these 3 pieces of information, it is very easy. We can decide the optimum quantity of a variable input usage. For example, let us see the example. Price of input is $30 per day, and output is 7.5 per unit, price of output, and marginal productivities are given. The number of workers, say 19, 20, 21. Suppose 19th worker, the contribution is 5 tons, 4 tons, 3 tons. This is, we have taken a part of the second stage. We have eliminated stage 3 and we have not taken stage 1. And in the stage 2 also, the extreme up to 0 we have not taken. A part of stage 2 is taken. Suppose number of workers and marginal productivity of workers. What is the cost of employing 19th worker? If the firm wants to hire the 19th worker, it has to pay $30 to him. And similarly, if it wants to employ 20th worker, also again $30 and $30. This is the price of input. And price of output, for example, the price of output, the firm can sell the unit at 7.5 per unit, and it is operating in a conditions of a perfect competition where the price is given, and the firm need not sell at a lower price. The price is fixed and the firm can sell any number of units at the prevailing market price. So it can sell, price per unit of output is 7.5, imagine. Now let us see, what is the cost benefit? If the firm employs 19th worker, what is the cost? The cost is 30. And what is benefit from the 19th worker? 19th worker added or contributed 5 tons or 5 units of the product. 5 units, for example. We cannot compare these two because this is in money terms, dollars, and this is in physical quantity, tons. Then how to make a comparison? The cost is $30 and benefit is 5 units of the product. So you better convert this into money value. 5 units means what is the money value of the product? 5 into 7.5, that is value of marginal product, VMP. That is 5 into 7.5, 37.5, for example. So 19th worker cost is $30 and benefit is 37. It is better to hire the 19th worker. We will not stop here. Let us experiment with the 20th worker also. For hiring the 20th worker, we need to pay $30 again. And the benefit expected from the 20th worker is 4 units of the product. What is the money value? 4 units means 4 into 7.5, that is 30. So the cost is 30 and benefit is also 30. So it is exactly equal. And suppose if you experiment the 21st worker also, let us see what happens. You have to incur 30 and you are getting only 3 units of the product. Additional, the 21st worker contributes only 3 units of the product. So its money value is 3 into 7.5, that is 22.5. From this we can see that the firm will not stop with 19th worker and he will not use the 21st worker. So 20 is called optimal quantity or equilibrium quantity of variable input usage, or optimal number of workers to be hired. Optimal quantity of a variable input usage is equal to 20. So there are 2 important conditions, equilibrium conditions. One is in equilibrium, the value of marginal product VMP is equal to, that is 30 is equal to PI, price of input. Second one is, we can also calculate marginal cost. Marginal cost, what is the extra cost per unit of output? For example, in the first case, what is the cost? $30 and benefit is 5 units. What is the cost per unit? Suppose by spending $30 you are able to produce 5 units of the product. That is, what is the cost per unit? If you calculate cost per unit, that is 30 by 5, that gives you 6. That is marginal cost. Marginal cost is extra cost per unit here. So 30 by 5 gives you marginal cost, and here 30 by 4, 7.5, and here 30 by 3, 10. The second condition is marginal cost is equal to PO. So the second equilibrium condition is the MC is equal to PO. And what is MC? MC is equal to PI by MP. Price of input 30 by 5, that is equal to marginal cost. 30 by 4, that is equal to marginal cost. 30 by 3, 10 marginal cost. So price of input by marginal product is equal to marginal cost, that is equal to price of output. Okay. So these 2 conditions are satisfied with the 20th worker, and this is called equilibrium of producer or equilibrium of a firm with 1 variable input usage. That is called optimal quantity of a variable input usage to be hired. In the earlier session, we have seen what is the optimal quantity of a variable input usage. And we can show the same thing with the help of a diagram also. Number of workers here. And this is price of input and VMP. Value of marginal product. And if you draw the value of marginal product curve, we will see that at a 20th worker, VMP is equal to price of input. that is 20. This is the optimal quantity. Say OA is optimal quantity of workers to be hired. What happens if the firm employs less than this quantity? So here VMP is greater than price of input. That means you are missing an opportunity, or by expanding towards A, profit can be more profit can be generated. So if you stop here, any level of input use is less than OA, that is a missed opportunity. And what happens if it is more than OA? So beyond OA, VMP is less than price of input. The benefit by expressed by way of VMP is less than the cost price paid to the input. So obviously OA is the optimal quantity of a variable input usage. Now let us discuss about the production function with the two variable inputs. A production function with the two variable inputs can be explained with the help of isoquants and isocost curves. So we need to develop two tools. One is called isoquant and second one is isocost curve. Let us discuss about a production function with two variable inputs. A production function with two variable input case can be explained with the help of two tools. One is isoquant and isocost. We need to develop two tools, that is isoquant and isocost curve. What is an isoquant? An isoquant is also called as a production indifference curve. It looks like an indifference curve, and an isocost is like a budget line used in the indifference curve analysis. So we apply the indifference curve technique to the case of production here. So first we develop the first tool, that is isoquant. An isoquant is a locus of combinations of two inputs, and each combination gives the same level of output. We can explain with the help of a table and also with the help of a graph. Let us see, labor and capital are used in different combinations, like say 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 7, 5, 4. So this is, there are four combinations, combination A, B, C, D. Suppose first combination says that 1 unit of labor and 10 units of capital can produce say 100 units of output. Similarly, combination B indicates that 2 units of labor and 7 units of capital can also produce 100 units of output. Similarly, combination C, 3 labor units and 5 capital units can also produce 100 units of output, and 4 labor units and 4 capital units can produce 100 units of output. Each combination producing the same level of output. So the producer is indifferent among the combinations. Which one to choose, whether it's A or B or C or D, all are equally desirable. All are giving the same level of output. In such a case, we are indifferent. That's why it is called production indifference curve. So if you draw the data into a graph, that becomes isoquant. Labor on x-axis and capital on y-axis. And let us see 110, 1 unit of labor and 10 units of capital, and 2 labor units and 7. And 3, 5, 3, and 4, 4. And this is an isoquant for 100 units of output. If we connect the points A, B, C, D with a, if by connecting these points we will get an isoquant for 100 units of output. That means combination A indicates 10 units of capital and 1 unit of labor that can produce 100 units of output, and similarly D, that is 4 units of capital and 4 units of labor, can also produce the same output. So movement along an isoquant either downwards or upwards, output remains the same. At point A 100, B also output 100, C, D. So any point on the isoquant indicates the same level of output. An isoquant is a locus of combinations of inputs, and each combination indicates the same level of output that can be produced. Okay. If you use different combinations, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4 labor and capital say 14, 10, 7 and 5. This is another isoquant for 200 units of output. Suppose output is 200 units. This is isoquant for 200 units, and this will be like this. This is isoquant for 200 units of output. So if you move along any point on this isoquant for 200 units, each point gives a combination of inputs that can produce 200 units of output. So movement along an isoquant, output remains same. Movement across the isoquants, say output 100, 200, if you can draw anything, 300, like this. This is 400. Output increases. So movement along an isoquant, output remains same, and movement across the isoquants, output increases. This is simply what is an isoquant. An isoquant is a locus of points or combinations of inputs, and each combination gives the same level of output. And if you draw several isoquants, that becomes isoquant map. The higher the isoquant, the greater the amount of output associated with each point on that particular curve. The farther the right to the farther the curve, the greater the amount of output associated with the combinations of inputs. Now, what are the features or characteristics of isoquants? There are 4 important characteristics. One is isoquant slopes downwards from left to right, negatively sloped. It slopes downwards from left to right. It is relatively steep at the top and flat at the bottom, and it has a bend towards the origin. That is called, it is convex to the origin. And the convexity is because of diminishing marginal rate of technical substitution. Diminishing marginal rate of technical substitution is the reason for the convexity. Why it has a bend towards origin? The reason is diminishing MRTS. What is MRTS? The rate at which one input is substituted for the other is called marginal rate of technical substitution. For example, let us see here. The first combination is 1 unit of labor and 10 units of capital. If you want 1 more unit of labor, say 1 to 2, how many units of capital are given up? 10 to 700. That means 3 units of capital are given up. Now, 1 more unit of labor from 2 to 3, you are willing to sacrifice only 7 to 5. That is 2 units of capital are given up here. And similarly, 3 to 4, 5 to 4, that is 1 unit. What is the rate of substitution? Initially, when there are more and more number of capital units are there, large number of units are given up. For a 1 unit gain in labor, you are willing to give sacrifice 3 units of capital to 1 like this. So the rate of substitution here you can see gradually diminishes, 3, 2, 1 like this. And the same thing you can also see here, 4, 3, 2 like this. 10, 14 to 10, 10 to 7, 7 to 5, 4, 3, 2 like this. Marginal rate of technical substitution is the reason for the downward slope of indifference curve. Then let us see what is the slope of an indifference curve. This is indifference curve for 100, production indifference curve for 100 units or isoquant for 100 units of output. Suppose if you move from here, point A to B, what happens? At point A, there is a combination of labor and capital. that can produce 100 units of output. And at point B also, another combination of labor and capital that can produce same output, 100 units of output. A movement from point A to point B involves two things. One is, you are giving up this many units of capital. Delta C units are given up. Delta C units of capital are given up, and delta L labor units are added. But output remains same. So there is a loss of utility, loss of output, which must be equal to gain in output. There is a loss of output which must be equal to gain in output. What is the loss of output? Delta C labor capital units are given up into marginal productivity of capital, that is equal to gain in output. Loss must be equal to gain, then only output remains same, 100. At point A output is 100, at point B also output is 100, but a movement from A to B, certain units of capital are given up, so there is a loss. And there is a gain also because of additional units of labor, and the loss and gain must be equal. So what is the loss? Loss is equal to delta C into marginal productivity of capital, that is the total loss, and total gain is equal to delta L times MPL. And if you simplify, and we know that the slope is equal to vertical by horizontal, or change in vertical by change in horizontal, that gives you slope of a curve. So delta C by delta L is equal to MPL by MPC. What is the slope of an isoquant? The slope of an isoquant is the ratio of marginal productivities of labor and capital when labor is represented on x-axis and capital is represented on y-axis. It is a ratio of marginal productivities of labor and capital, that is the slope. Okay. This is about the first tool, marginal productivity, isoquants. And let us develop the second tool, that is iso cost lines. To decide the optimum quantity of input usage, what is the best input combination? Or what is the least cost combination of inputs? That is the purpose of our discussion. And least cost combination of inputs can be decided with the help of two tools. One is isoquant and second tool is iso cost line. So we need two pieces of information: price of capital, price of labor, and the budget. For example, price of capital is 10 per unit and price of labor is 5 per unit and the budget is say 50. Given this information, we all know that if the entire amount is spent on labor and capital, for example, if the entire amount of 50 is spent on labor alone, how many units of labor can be utilized or purchased? How many units of labor can be purchased? 50 budget and 5 is the price of labor. 50 by 5 at 10 labor and 0 capital. Okay. Or in the other case, if the entire amount is spent on capital, 50 by 10, that means 5 capital and 0 labor. These are the two extreme cases. In between there are other combinations, like for example, if you buy 8 labor units, 8 into 5, 40, 10 is there, and 1 unit of capital can be purchased, 8 to 1. And second one, suppose 6 units of labor, 6 into 5, 30. So 20 is available for purchase of capital, that is you can buy 2 capital units, and 4, 3, 2, 4. Zero, 5. So these are the different combinations in which inputs can be bought by spending the entire amount of budget, given expenditure or budget. So what are the different combinations? So 10 units of labor and 0 capital, or 0 labor and 5 units of capital, or various other combinations. And if you draw the same in the form of a graph, you will get the iso cost line. labor here and capital here, and labor 10 and capital 5, and connecting these two, this is called ISO cost line for $50. ISO cost line for $50. Okay? So any point, ISO cost line is a locus of points or combinations of inputs that can be purchased by spending the entire amount of $50 budget. So if the budget is more, the ISO cost line increases upwards like this, upward shift. If the budget is less, it makes a downward shift, say 25, 50, 75 like this. Now, what is the slope of an ISO cost line? Slope is equal to vertical by horizontal, that is, this is vertical height and horizontal. In vertical, we are using quantity or units of quantity of capital by quantity of labor. Quantity of capital and quantity of labor. And quantity of capital, how we got the quantity of capital? Budget by price of capital divided by budget by price of labor. Quantity of capital is nothing but total budget, 50 by the price, 10, that is 5, you got quantity of capital, and quantity of labor is budget by price of labor. And if you simplify this budget by price of capital into price of labor by budget, and cancels, budget cancels out, and the result is the price of labor by price of capital. So the slope of an ISO cost line is the ratio of prices of labor and capital. The slope of an ISO cost line is the ratio of price of labor to price of capital, price of labor and capital, when labor is on x-axis and capital is on y-axis. Now we have the two tools, that is budget line and ISO quant. Let us bring these two together to decide the least cost combination of inputs. It's very simple. Now only thing is we have to draw these two together, ISO quant and ISO cost curve. Let us see. This is labor and capital. This is ISO cost line for $50, and this is for 75, and this is for 100. And this is ISO quant for 100 units of output, 200 units of output, and 300 units of output. What is the least cost combination of inputs? You will say that at point A, for example, ISO quant for 100 units of output is tangential to ISO cost line at point A. It is tangential, and that is the least cost combination. Why? For example, you know that point A indicates a combination of labor and capital that can produce 100 units of output. And the same output can also be produced by point C on ISO quant for 100 units. Same output can be produced by using inputs given by point C. But we know that point C is on a higher ISO cost line, higher budget, higher expenditure, requires higher expenditure. And similarly B, the combination of inputs given by point B can also produce 100 units, but B is on a higher ISO cost line that requires higher expenditure, whereas point A expenditure is only 50. You can produce with this combination, you can produce 100 units of output with the lowest cost. So that is the equilibrium combination or least cost combination of producing 100 units of output. What is the least cost combination of producing 100 units of output? That is given by point A, or point of tangency of ISO quant with ISO cost curve at point A. And take the case of ISO quant for 200. It is tangential to the iso cost line at point, say, B, and this is, say, E. Each point of tangency indicates equilibrium. 100 units can be produced with the least cost of combination given by A, 200 units can be produced with the point given by D, and 300 units of output can be produced by E. And if you connect these points, this is called expansion path. These points of tangency, if you connect, that is called expansion path. Cost combination of inputs is given by the point of tangency between isoquant and isocost at point A or D or E. So at point of tangency, say at point A, the slopes are equal. Slope of isoquant and the slope of isocost line are equal. What is the slope of isoquant? Productivities of marginal productivity of labor and capital, MPL by MPC. What is the slope of an isocost line? Ratio of prices, price of labor by price of capital. So at point A, the slope of budget line, the slope of isoquant are equal. So MPL by MPC is equal to price of labor by price of capital. And if you cross multiply this, you will get MPL into price of capital is equal to price of labor into MPC. And if you simplify this, MPL by price of L is equal to MPC by price of C.